This is Pete Fornatele back with you at 92.3 KRock on location at Shea Stadium with my special guest, renowned fashion designer, Mick Jagger.
Well, that's a first. That's a first, I must say. Well, it's nice to see you here in this capacity as a fashion interviewer.
Well, now, you know, Mick, you've been described many, many ways over the years. As you just said, that's the first time for that one. How does it feel? How does that...
Well, it's quite good, really. It's something I'm quite comfortable with. It's not strange to me. I've been in fashion, been interested in fashion a long time, and I know lots of designers, and I've watched how they work, and I've watched how they promote, and I've seen, you know, a lot of clothes and fashions come and go, and see them come round again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's quite fun to be a bit more involved with I mean, it's just a different time now, and I always took a bit of a strong dislike to a lot of rock and roll merchandising, just basically because it was the same thing over and over.
Right.
And people said to me, well, you know, what's different about it? Why did you get it? Why are you interested in it? And really it just came from an accident of being shown black T-shirts again with tongues on them. And I said, well, they're very nice black T-shirts with tongues, and we got no really objections to them. It's just that perhaps we should do something as well as that. And they said, oh, no, well, they really, you know, what people want, Mick, is black T-shirts with tongues on them. They don't really want anything else. I said, well, let's try. I said, no, honestly, they don't. In Kansas City, no one's interested. I said, well, maybe it's different. You know, they watch people on MTV. You know, they see fashions in newspapers. And I said, don't underestimate people. You know, they read fashion and see people what they're wearing the same as everywhere else. It's not only in New York and LA that they wear
the tongue logo.
clothes.
The tongue logo is the best known and probably the most identifiable logo in rock and roll history. I can't think of anyone else who has exploited that element of graphic arts as well as the group. Could you give us a little history on where the tongue...
So we've got a funny history, really, because lots of people think it was designed by Andy Warhol, which isn't true.
Right.
Andy would have loved to have designed it, and we'd never be able to use it, probably. But I was looking for a logo when we started Rolling Stones Records and looking for something in about 1970. And I had this calendar on my wall. It was an Indian calendar, which you'll see in Indian grocery stores and things. And it's the goddess Kali, which is the very serious goddess of carnage and so on. And she has a sort of, as a part from her body, she has this tongue that sticks out like that. So I took that tongue and I gave it to this designer called John Pash, and he kind of modernized it somewhat. And that's how it started.
And it's certainly withstood a test of time already. On the other designs for the clothing, to what extent did your music inspire your designs?
Well, you mean as far as the other logos or the other kinds of colors and stuff? Well, music's not a direct inspiration. We have one T-shirt and thing that's got lyrics on it.
Lyrics from your songs in your handwriting?
Yeah, I decided I thought that would be a good thing to have. People could have a few of those a few odd, funny lines.
Did you choose them at random or with some thought behind it?
I had some thought for some funny bits and pieces.
Which ones? Tell us.
Well, there was you gave me diamonds and I gave you disease or something like that. There's some funny ones. I can't remember exactly which ones. You blew your nose and blew your mind and stuff like that.
So is it fair to say that specific songs inspired specific designs? Let's see if you can think of something.
Well, I don't think it's taking it a bit far. I mean, I just like that. You see, it's just what I liked was the repetition, of the graphics of repetition. You know, we did the tongues, the multiplied tongues, and we repeated the graphics of the one-liners from songs. We took the steel wheels motif and did repeats on that, very, very large. We did real close-ups on that. And so really, we did a lot of multiplication of images for this particular line that we have out now.
What is your hope for the Rockware, Mick? Is it something just for the tour, or do you see it having a life?
Well, we talked very early on. We said, now, you know, this is the first time we've gone into retail. It seemed to me common sense to go into retail. Why should you just be able to, if you didn't come to the show, you didn't have the money to buy whatever you wanted to see at the show, you could buy it in the store afterwards, or wanted to buy it next month, or buy some more for your kids or something. So I figured it would be good to go into retail. And there was quite a lot of resistance. I don't think that rock and roll merchandise has been sold extensively in retail before. There was a little bit of resistance at the beginning, but I think now we think it's been successful enough that we want to carry it on, so we're going to design some more stuff for spring and so on.
If the clothes have half the life of the music, they'll be around a very long time.
We'll see.
Did you expect that at this point? Did you expect the music to have the longevity and the meaning in people's lives that it seems to have, that it's obvious that it has?
No, I never thought about it in that way. I don't think most artists do. I think it's very dangerous to start thinking about your work as far as a thing of posterity is concerned. Pop music's very much a thing of the moment. And it lasts a moment, and if people pick it up later on and still enjoy it, and that's wonderful. If they don't, then they don't.
Yeah.
It's very ephemeral. It's not as ephemeral as ice sculpture, but it is ephemeral almost by definition.
But you have such a body of work at this point to draw from.
Well, that's the thing. If you do enough, then you've got a better chance, because the good things will be there. Will stand up, hopefully.
A friend of mine gave me a videotape of the Stones' 5 appearances on The Sullivan Show.
Yeah.
And I watched it knowing we were going to do this interview, as much to see what you were wearing as what you were doing. And it was a really interesting evolution from 64 to 69. Do things like that have any interest for you? Do you go back and look at those? And
we were doing this retrospective thing of we're going to put out a retrospective video, and I did actually look at it a little bit with fashion, because it is interesting to see I mean, that's one of the fun things about looking at these old things. I mean, once you see them, but the thing is, yes, here it is painted black, and you know that, and you've heard painted black, but so what is he wearing? I mean, what's Keith wearing? Is he really wearing that jacket? And, I mean, some of them stand up really well, some of them are terrible and you can laugh at them, some of them are good, and some of them are just last. On that Ed Sullivan, there's a good military jacket I was wearing on the Ed Sullivan show. Yes. Which you could still wear now. And then there's some other stuff that you just wouldn't be dead in.
Now, it seemed to me from watching the tape that Brian was the most fashion conscious. Is that a fair statement?
I don't think that's really fair. I think everyone was pretty fashion conscious. Maybe he was just more outrageous.
That's probably it.
Yeah, I mean, he just might want to shock a bit more. But that's good in a band. You can't all be wanting to shock, otherwise you end up with just a mess.
Yeah. It wasn't uniforms. We were originally fed the Beatles in Edwardian suits, you remember?
Yeah.
Was there a similar attempt made to define a Stones fashion in the beginning, and did you...
We did have uniforms that we occasionally wore. We had these leather waistcoats, which still kind of would be all right now, which we wore for a bit. Uh-huh. And we had houndstooth jackets, which we wore only once, which I wouldn't wear again. And there's lots of times I've seen the Stones wearing ties, which is pretty amazing. The whole band wearing ties. There was sort of an attempt. I mean, I think it's good to coordinate. I think if you just go completely your own separate ways, it's not right. You've got to look at what everyone else is wearing. I mean, I always go and see if Keith has some clothes that are the same colours as mine. He has a purple shirt. I always go to see if he's wearing one, and I go, no, I'll wear something else. It's good to be aware of what other people are wearing.
Sure, absolutely. You seemed genuinely surprised at the press conference in July when someone pointed out that it was the 27th anniversary of the Stones' first gig together. Are those milestones just unimportant to you, or are there some that are?
None of them are important to me.
Because...
I just don't take any notice of them. I'm really not interested in the past very much. But that's for other people to get involved in. I'm only interested in what's going on at the moment.
In line with that, your night at the Hall of Fame, which I was privileged to attend last January, I found it to be a terrific evening. I thought you did too. I'm just wondering what your, now with some hindsight.
Yeah, I don't like award shows. I only went under pressure. But I hope it was grace under pressure.
It was just announced this week, of course, this year's winners, or
whatever's inductees is the word.
Inductees, that's right. The Who, the Kinks. Are you plotting your revenge against
No,
Mr.
I won't be
Townsend?
going. I've had my fill of the Hall of Fame. I told them last time. 2 years in a row. Yeah, I'll be somewhere else.
That's great. People who buy Rockware will obviously look their best in it if they're in shape. You certainly are. How do you do it? What's your regimen?
I think you could be fat and wear T-shirts just to get a bigger size. They're very good.
That's the extra large line.
I love the large
we're talking about. But you know what I mean.
Well, I mean, I'm just lucky. I was just born in a particular shape. I mean, some people are born one way and some... But I mean, I just burn lots of food, and I can eat as much food as I like. So I'm the worst person to give anyone advice, because I'm just very lucky. I can't put on weight. I have to fight to keep to 140. I mean, I have to really eat a lot to stay at 140. If I don't eat sort of 3 square meals a day, I start to go and look too thin.
To do what I saw you do on that stage a couple of weeks ago, you really have to be in shape for it, though, correct or not?
I don't really. I don't know. I mean, I just, as I say, I was always very lucky. I've always been in very good shape, and I've never had to work very hard at it. When I see people struggling.
Yeah.
But you know, I don't smoke and stuff like that, and but I don't really enjoy smoking. I mean, those kind of things really slow you down. But I mean, you know, I just don't really enjoy doing that. But yeah, you've got it. The trouble with this being on the tour, though, is that you do have to be disciplined to a certain amount, more than you want. I mean, you can't really go and get drunk every night. I can't. And have a hangover and do what I do. It's impossible. So it's a bit like being on a tennis circuit. And I see friends I know a little bit, the tennis players, and you know, they want to go out and have a good time, but they just can't because they've got a match tomorrow. Well, it's like that almost every day for me. And so I can't go and party every night. I can only do it occasionally.
Was there a time when you could?
Well, then I would do it, but then I wouldn't put in a performance, and I wouldn't have to have such as big a stage as I've got now.
Yeah.
You know, and I wouldn't have to play and sing so long as I do now.
By the way, it's very obvious to me that you feel the responsibility to those 60,000 people a night of delivering the absolute best that you can be. And
well, they paid money, and they not only that, they've got high expectations. They don't want to see sort of second-rate stuff. And if you're in any way under the weather, you're letting them down. I mean, sometimes if you can't help it, you know, you get a cold or something. But you try not to let that show.
Again, thinking in terms of relating this line of questioning to Rockware, certainly people of every age can participate in something from the line, but that brings to mind as well the ability of the Stones to relate to audiences of every age. When you look around that stadium, you must at this point see everything from toddlers to near senior citizens. What do you attribute that to? What is this?
I think it's just merely that the Stones have been around so long. Well, no, I mean, they have. I mean, that's the reason that those people are there. I mean, if it was this year's phenomenon, there would only be a certain age group. And so we've got a very, very large age range. In 1981, it was large, and now it's even larger. So that's because you've kept some of the people that came in the 60s, and you've added on the 70s and added on the early 80s, and here we are almost in the 90s, and you're getting, so you get very large disparate age groups. So I don't know how they actually, I'm in the worst position to judge, but I don't know how they actually get on side by side. That's the thing that interests me. Now, you know, someone you don't know, you know, you find yourself, and there's 4 of you, and you're partying, and you're 18 years old, and you've had a lot of beer, and you're sitting next to sort of a family of rather staid, middle-aged people.
But, you know, it's not the same as being with 4 people on a subway car.
No.
They might not have anything in common, but those other 4 know that they have love of the Stones.
I know what you're saying, but I'm kind of, anyway, it interests me, but I can't see it.
Sure. Sure. That's great. The show covers such a wide spectrum of your music. Have you rediscovered some songs from the group's past that you're really enjoying performing this time?
Yeah, I think perhaps, say, Ruby Tuesday, which we haven't done for a while. And I did that when I went to Japan, did solo things. I found that the audience loved that one. And they still like it here. And then 2000 Light Years from Home, which we'd never done before, ever. I mean, and that went down, that goes down well. I don't know, Play With Fire we haven't done in a long time. A lot of the others we've done.
Sure.
But no, I enjoy sort of, it's hard, you know, breathing life into them every night. That's the more of a problem. You know, to keep the performance to a point where it still retains your interest. Because if you get bored with it, then the audience will feel that. So we have to try and, now we're at the point where we're trying to change the set a little bit. You know, bring in some more new numbers from the new album and alternate it.
Partially to keep it interesting for yourself as well?
Yeah.
The night I was here was one of the rain nights we spoke about earlier, and I think it happened during 2000 Light Years.
It started raining.
I thought it was an effect.
Black rain.
Is there is rain gear part of the line?
I had made the most wonderful raincoats when it started to rain, which I haven't used, but they look fantastic. But I'm starting to wear them at the end, whether it rains or not.
Mick, you have been a celebrity, quote, for so long now. What aspects of it do you like, and which ones do you absolutely hate?
Well, it's hard. I mean, you have to balance this thing between private life, and I think everyone says that. I mean, I don't like, even when I'm working on the road, I don't like to be photographed the whole time, and this whole thing, you have to look good the whole time. It's a nightmare, really. I hate that part. You know, they always have to wear, like, something that looks good, and you always, you know, you don't want to look a mess, and you don't want to look all crumpled and asleep, and I hate that part of it. So, but, you know, when you're on the road, you expect to be on 24 hours a day almost.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. And when I'm off the road and when I'm not working, I don't like anyone to bug me, but you can't really expect them not to. They all still want sign bits of paper and be nice to them and so on. Sometimes you don't always want to be nice, you know, you want to get on with your own life. And when you're with people, you don't always want to have to be nice to the people at the next door table and be gracious, and you want to tell them, silly old bag, go away. But you know, you sort of go, you count to 5 and you say hello. And how interesting that your son was also at the concert, and you know, whatever, you know. But it's hard, isn't it? It doesn't sound very difficult, but after a while it just like gets a bit monotonous, you know, to be that like that. And that's when you see these stories of celebrities sounding off and getting annoyed with camera people, and so it's kind of natural because they do bug you. You know, they stand outside your house or whatever.
I've always thought that one of the good things about celebrity is that it probably gives you access to meeting people of stature or creativity that you might not have had the opportunity to do otherwise. Is there anyone left in that category for you? Anyone
who I'd like to meet, who would unlock? Well, but there's loads of people. I mean, I just like watching people work in other fields and see how they handle themselves. I mean, yeah, it is interesting. You get to meet people. I mean, I like talking to sort of people that were in power at one time or in power now, about how they handled their particular problems and so on. It's interesting, and yeah, you do get invited to meet people. And that part of it is a big plus. And you know, they do sometimes give you the best seat at the restaurants as opposed to sitting next to the kitchen. There's some great. I'm not denigrating being famous. It has its fun moments.
That's great. Let's see if we can bring it full circle. I'm just going to ask you, design is not something new to the Stones, obviously. There have been images portrayed of the group throughout the group's career. Some of them, I guess, now I'm just guessing for myself, when you look back at old pictures of yourself, some you're going to want to put back in the drawer and never look at again, and others you're going to want to keep out there because you still think it says something relevant about you at that time of your life. either through album covers or photos, can you do that for me and pick a couple of lasting images of the Stones that still say something today?
Whoa. Well, I think there's early pictures that David Bailey did of the Rolling Stones from the first album covers and so on, were very formative for the band's image. You know, it's interesting always to have a good photographer, someone that presents people in and with a good, looking good, really.
Yeah.
And then thinking later on, it's hard. This is a tough question because I can imagine how many photographs there are.
Sure.
I mean, I think it's very important in the beginning, but I'm trying later on. I mean, there's hundreds of great pictures. I mean, to evoke a particular image. I suppose the Sticky Fingers cover, that wasn't a photograph of the Stones, was also a very good piece that Andy Warhol did.
Right.
It's always good to have something that's a bit groundbreaking and that causes a bit of a stir as well.
Does it bother you that the latest versions of that are non-zipperable?
Well, it's just, yeah, it'd be nice, but they, it just cost too much money. You can always buy them from Japan where they're still made with the zips.
That's terrific. The tour has just been fabulous, and the future of the Stones seems limitless. What's left to achieve from your perspective?
Well, it's to keep the interest going for me in this. I mean, I enjoy doing other projects. I enjoy doing stage design and clothes design. I enjoy doing music, obviously, as well, but I like to stretch myself in other areas. And I'm interested in other things as well, and I think the Stones will always be an important part of my life, but I'm interested in doing different things outside the Stones. And, for instance, the thing we started talking about, the fashion thing, and other things too. But I think the Stones will keep going for a while yet.
It's almost the 90s. What'll you do right after the tour?
I don't know, it's in the hands of the gods. I know I can't predict the future. But so 89's been pretty good so far.
It's been great.
Thank you.
Thanks for spending the time with us at KRock.